O God of mystery, you are always greater than our thoughts can comprehend, and always more than our words can contain. Give us humble minds and open hearts, that the language of our praise may be new every morning, and our silence pregnant with your word. Through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you for this prayer. We'll be including in our liturgies during the season of Advent at the beginning of the Holy Eucharist. And I wondered what you're hoping to invite in those who join us for worship.
Yeah, I as we as a community started to think about this process of reimagining, re-envisioning, hearing differently some of the language that we use in our worship. The idea occurred to me, the question occurred to me, what could it be like to take that spot that's occupied by the collect for purity, the subtle, beloved, traditional prayer, preparing our hearts and minds for worship, that Thomas Cranmer took from a sacristy prayer, a prayer that the presider would have prayed alone prior to leading public worship. He took that and made it a public prayer that we all say. I thought, what would it be like to have a prayer like that draws our attention, particularly to two things. One being that the God we are approaching in worship is a God not only of revelation, which of course that is utterly true for us as Christians, that we're people who believe a revealed truth about God in Jesus Christ, but that also there is so much mystery to that God, so much more yet to be said in new ways. So how might a prayer specifically acknowledging the mystery of God help point to the utterly crucial ways language communicates the truths of God, but then also the provisionality of all of the things that we can say as humble creatures about the Creator.
Yeah, I love the almost paradox of revelation, mystery occupying kind of the same space. And I think particularly for me, mystery always works at the level of imagination. So I wonder, what about for you? Where is mystery drawing your attention?
Yes. Yeah. For me, yes, the word mystery and the word imagination absolutely go together, are bound up with one another. I also wanted to try crafting a prayer that distilled and sort of brought into the space of our worship the entire mystical and contemplative tradition of the church, which has had such a profound appreciation for, you know, what one 14th century text calls unknowing, the cloud of unknowing. What might we do best to unknow as we approach God in humility with our language? And also how can silence, both the silences in our worship, but also the silence out of which all of our language and all of our thought arises, how can that silence be not just the absence of the sound, but also this creative foment, almost? So this image I tried to use of our silence pregnant with your word. That in Advent, we're it's a waiting silence that has a positive presence to it.
Did you have a particular image for that phrase, silence pregnant with your word? Was there an image that was operative there for you?
For me, I know this is an image you love as well. The icon of the Virgin of the Sun. This uh, really beloved uh, icon of the Eastern Church that is often seen in the apse of the church over the altar, where the Virgin's hands are outspread. And one version of it uh, is called "She Who Is More Spacious Than the Heavens." So this sort of uh, paradoxical way in which this humble, lowly human, the Virgin Mary, uh, by her yes to God and her bearing of God in that her womb becomes uh, more spacious than the heavens because of the one she brings into being through it. And that there is something of that process that happens with us and in us. Um, and that process begins, I would say, in worship, uh, in the womb of the church, from which we go out into the world, uh, ideally kind of made more expansive by our encounter with this expansive God.
Yeah, and I love this kind of almost a tension of something about a poverty of language or a limitation of language and an expansiveness and opening up of silence, which is really isn't how most of us I think would think about that. But it's really wonderful to have both expressed here and that invitation to think about all the ways in which we're necessarily limited by human thought, and all of the ways that God opens up more than we could possibly imagine. Yes.
I think particularly in liturgical traditions, it's so important to remind ourselves of that fact, because we uh, we rely upon poetry, uh, that the vocation of poets in Anglicanism has always been so central, uh, but they periodically, at our best, we do what T.S. Eliot in his four quartets has that line: to purify the dialect of the tribe, to urge the mind to aftersight and foresight. That's something we are called continually to do as the church, so that the liturgically the words that we become comfortable and familiar with through holy repetition also never cease to surprise us when we renovate or refresh our poetics.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as we will prepare to create this quite a bit over this season, I look forward to all of the ways in which it invites refreshment on our own heart.
Me too.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.